Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Let's give it a couple more minutes to see if more people join. If not, we will get the presentation started. Today is going to be a pretty quick one, but still, let's give it a couple of minutes. Curtis, I am not sure I can unmute yourself. Well, I cannot mute yourself. I can mute you, but if you don't mind,
Well, I thought I was on mute. Apparently not.
well, okay. Cool. So yeah, let's get started. Today, again, as I said, it's going to be a pretty quick one. And then as usual, we will start by the legal requirement stuff to adhere to the Hyperledger policy and the code of conduct, which are in the first two slides of the presentation. I will be also sharing the link of the presentation in the chat, just in case anyone wants to have it in hand. And then after that, we have a relatively short agenda. We are going to have a quick introduction for the updates or anybody new in the call, but I do not see, so we will pass. We are going to briefly introduce to the workshop that we are going to run tomorrow around SDJWT in Hyperledger, which we 100% recommend. And the last two are about the regular GitHub discussion work that we allocate in here and that we do. And if there's any news in the maintainers or community growth section, we will specify there. Cool, so around updates, again, we wanted to keep it really short, so you will not see huge content in the presentations or in the slides. But as we agreed past week, we were going to give one of the discussions one more week to vote and have comments on it. And today, hopefully, we can take a decision and consider it as we did a vote. People voted, people gave their opinions, and then we should take a decision at some point. And then also the update that we are running the Hyperledger workshop tomorrow that I hope that everyone joins. Around the workshop, if you want to get it on your calendar, you just need to subscribe to the meetup URL. I am not sure why is it in this format, but I just found that this is one of the ways that you can join. And then you will get the same Zoom US link after you subscribe or you register to the event. But that's how to access. The event is going to happen tomorrow at 4 p.m. UTC. And what we will be showing is pretty different to the things that we usually show. Because we never did something like what we are showing tomorrow. What we are showing tomorrow is like an interactive demo, not an interactive demo, an interactive workshop or tutorial, where you start having nothing, no environment. Then you provision your local environment with one single command and not requiring to run a set scripts or anything like that. And then on top of that, we go step by step, showing the code example in a way that you can copy the code and write it in a file in every single step of the workshop, and you can debug the code immediately. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just be there tomorrow. If not, I guess it will be recorded, but if you want to see it in live action and maybe make questions around it or see how it works better with code examples, I 100% recommend to assist tomorrow. Around the GitHub discussions, as we said, let's do the usual exercise that we do. There is not much activity that is new on these three proposals. There is a new discussion that Michael opened around the 2.4 release. But the point that I wanted to make today is in this one, which was one of the ones that we agreed past week on trying to get it voted and get it discussed a little bit. And as we agreed, next Tuesday, November 12th, we will be closing this ticket and start creating the tasks. Is anyone against taking this action? Or do you guys feel we gave enough time for people to vote and give their opinions and all that? Remember what this is about? If not, I can repeat that again. Cool. So assuming there's nothing more, we just take it as a yes. And the team is going to, in the following weeks, start documenting the tickets in the way that we specified here, but with a lot more detail. And this is going to be seen in the GitHub project, but in the column of the things that we do. So not in the bucket, not in the backlog, but in the planned things. Remember, these are the things that we are likely going to prioritize ourselves. Well, not likely, that we are prioritizing ourselves. And these are things that the community can pick up to improve or to make things work better. Yeah, sorry. So if there's nobody against,
Should we talk about what are the steps that we are going to implement this, or?
yeah, they were written in the ticket, but I agree. So the proposed roadmap, and at the end, it can have slight changes or modifications, but I think that was a rough idea. Allowing the SDKs to create and publish the PrismD directly into Cardano blockchain. Allowing the SDK to issue credentials without a VDR component. What this means is that we need to progressively bring support for issuing credentials until we have a VDR component that we can consume. Allowing the SDKs to create, store, and resolve assets from the VDR component. Hopefully, when we start having this task, the VDR is already implemented. If not, I guess that we can start with the next item, which is allowing the SDK to issue credentials without getting any other agent involved. Well, the SDK at the end is also an agent. So, yeah. And then as a high level perspective or high level description, create and publish deeds on chain, create and store credential schemas as we do in the VDR, and issue the credentials through the existing DITCOM protocols, but that don't exist right now in the SDK for issuance and so on. Do you want to drive the conversation, Fabio, maybe?
It was more about the first point, so publishing to the blockchain. So we have several options in there. We need basically a way to publish things on the blockchain. So should we try to contact Lace and see what they can do about it, or should we use something more out of the box like the block first API, or does anyone have more suggestions to try? Basically, we need a way to put metadata on the transaction. Does anyone have any suggestion?
I mean, personally, I would use the block first API, and let me explain you why. As a wallet, you need to have an endpoint, right? And then most wallets out there in Cardano, what they do is that they either have their own nodes or use an API. And I do not think that we would want to now have infrastructure of our own to write transactions on chain. That's my personal opinion, though. What about others? The others like Roberto that have projects, like what do you guys think about that?
So I mean, could we have some sort of API to write to the BDR, right? So we want to abstract writing on chain. I feel like either if that connects to a third-party service API or your own infrastructure, I guess that could be depending on which use case. Because you can also, like, if you run the node already, in theory, you can provide an API too from, I forgot the name of the wallet, Icarus, maybe, or something similar. Right? So if you already have a cloud agent, you could, in theory, you already have a node connected and all that. You could have that interface connect to that. So I feel like we should really have like a standard way for the SDK to write on chain. That is, one way. And then we can implement different connectors, either a third-party service or Icarus or whatever else we can add on the way. But trying to standardize how the SDK writes on chain, I think that's important because it really depends on everyone's use case. I agree that the first step, it's easier to just use a third-party API that already does that for you. But if we connect directly and then anybody wants a new implementation, those projects start to diverge, right? On
of course.
things.
We would never connect the SDK directly to an API key or anything like that. We would never do that.
Right. Right. So as long as we have a common interface for the SDK to write on chain, and then the same like the Plur encrypted is an interface for different implementations, we should do the same for the VDR. And then start with one. I feel like if a third-party service is the easiest and fastest one to implement, we could start with that one, and then a community project can take on Icarus or something like that. That if you already have the infrastructure to get that going.
Yes. So here, I think we are talking about two different components. The VDR would be to store DID-related resources, like in this case, it could be credential schema. But now what Fabio was trying to talk about is just writing the preempted operations on chain to actually become an issuer, or an issuer whose keys can be resolved through the Cardano blockchain, making verification open and transparent.
Yeah, so for that part, the interface, basically, it's already defined on the did method itself. So it's very specific how the metadata should be on chain. The only thing that is missing is like the connector that you were talking about.
Yep.
And I was suggesting like the Lace or another wallet, because that would be very close to the user. So the user wouldn't need a API key like in Block First. Would just, okay, they have their own wallet. If there is a way to integrate with that wallet, like calling some method in the wallet that it's able to build a transaction, that would be great.
Yes, more or less, Fabio. Like most wallets never share you the private key.
But the point is not to sharing the private key. It's just like, okay, I have this metadata, and the wallet would allow you to, okay, there is a method in here that you can just call. In here, when I
No,
say a method, it's internal.
let me explain you. There is a SIP called SIP30. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's the CIP30, which specifies how wallets are connected. Again, maybe I'm just remembering the name wrong. I don't know why I cannot write numbers. Okay.
Yeah, but Fabio, so I think what I understand is he's just connecting through the JavaScript API of a wallet. Like it could be like a wallet running on the browser extension. We just go with the most common wallets and just pass that payload to the wallet.
Exactly.
So it writes the did for you, right? Okay.
Yes, exactly. So basically,
Yes, Fabio,
imagine
but
that
hold
you
on.
would have this app that would build the like the metadata, the Atala block, the Atala, what we called before the Atala block, build that metadata and then pass it to the wallet. So Lace, that would be an extension on the browser, and then you would do everything from the wallet itself, not
I
from.
think we can actually do that, because like this SIP30 would be basically Apollo sign, Apollo verify, Apollo create private keys, Apollo derive, Apollo, all these kind of things. So we could implement a version of Apollo that is using an external API, an external wallet API like this one, which supports any wallet provider, right, that uses the SIP30.
Right.
So I think it's actually doable. It changes a little bit our architecture in the wallet SDK, because in the wallet SDK we are used a lot to store the keys in Pluto and all these kind of things. And if you ever integrate with one of these APIs for the wallet integration, you will see that they never share you the keys. The public keys, yes, but the private keys, you will never get access to those.
Yeah, but you need those. That's a wallet's job to do that for you. All we're doing is we're passing the payload that we want to write on chain, and as long as the wallet is compatible with that SIP30, we can do it.
Yeah, as far as I understand, if we can sign and verify stuff using an external wallet service, things are doable. By saying doable, I don't mean that they do not require heavy changes. I would say they require heavy changes, because in many places in our code, we are used to call Pluto, give me the private keys. And with this new connector, we will never have Pluto anything.
I mean, we still need to store the dates on our agent's wallet, SDK wallet, but this is a different wallet, and all we're doing is we're calling that through. We've checked if it exists, if it's any available, and we just pass the payload, and then the other wallet takes over and completes that operation. Because we still need to store the dates on our current wallet on the SDK, or do everything just the same. It's just one extra step to publish on chain, I guess.
Yeah, I think I agree with Robert. I think, Harry, what Robert is saying is that correct? Because you need to store our keys anyways, but that wallet is only for submitting the transaction, and where that wallet, for example, might be paying the ADAs for submitting that transaction. That wallet will take care of that. Our current architecture also works in that way only.
I understand.
Because right now, Node is the one which does that wallet handling, because Node is connected.
I understand, but how Pollux works, for example, is when Pollux needs to sign something, it will go and check in Pluto if that private key exists. I'm not saying it's possible. It's impossible. I'm saying it's possible, but it requires a little bit of changes in the SDK.
Javi, what we are explaining is that they are completely different keys. So you have a plugin that is your wallet with your identity that then connects to Lace, that is another a browser extension that has a wallet with the private key of the wallet. So
Yeah.
so they are completely separated.
Yeah. I think we don't need, from the identity wallet's perspective, from the SDK, we don't need to sign the transaction. The other wallet needs to sign the transaction, and you're just passing the payload to the other wallet, and the other wallet holds the private key and all that, and we don't have to worry about that. It's all on them to, if the thing that I don't know is if these other wallets support custom metadata payloads to upload something on chain. So as long as we pass that payload in the way we want it to be on chain, and they say, okay, I'll just submit this transaction and put this on chain, and then it's resolvable, that's all that we need to do. And Lace or whatever other wallet we use, it will take care of signing the transaction.
If we send this, if we send the Seaboard transaction, it does include metadata.
Okay.
That's 100%.
Okay, so
Great.
it seems feasible. Should we ask?
It's It seems possible. So if we just add a standard SIP30 API from the SDK perspective, I think it's completely doable.
And we are talking in this case only for TS. Because I'm not sure, like on mobile, you don't have SIP30, right? You cannot, that's actually JavaScript API. So.
Yeah, I don't know in mobile how that's, I mean, there could be other wallets that support that or similar, but for now, I guess so.
Okay.
Yes, only.
That's usually where Blockfrost would come involved, like from the mobile, but that might have changed. It's been a long time since I looked at that.
Okay, and this would be only for the issuer-related stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
And yeah, as an issuer, really, I do not see anything else apart from signing and verifying a message.
Are you saying it's issuer only because that's just what we're going to focus on, or technically because that's just what we're focusing on now, right?
Well, like what we don't need to make somebody creating a credential expensive for the user that is receiving this credential. So the holder deeds usually do not get published on chain. So you would not want your deed to be on chain.
Yeah, because then you can verify. Yeah.
Yeah. While on the issuer side, you may want the opposite.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, that's been a very interesting conversation.
So, okay, so we start with the API for SIP30, and then we worry about the Blockfrost or whatever other third-party REST APIs.
Actually, I think that's the greatest idea, to integrate with a SIP30, or I think there is other variants of that, but mainly this one.
I think that's the biggest bang for your buck is to do SIP30. Then you get all the native wallets, all the existing wallets.
Exactly.
And then there might be a different architecture if you want to call out to another platform API. And if we have to do it the other Edge SDKs, we might end up having to do Blockfrost there anyway. But SIP30 would get us pretty far.
Blockfrost also could work for Cloud Agent in case that you don't want or can't run the whole node infrastructure.
Correct.
So that, I mean, we could reuse the same REST API client library in mobile and also in Cloud Agent. So it could be.
My question would be, I don't know how similar they are, but can we just have one interface that has a connector for both those things? Like, can we make it generic so that there's just one interface and we can call SIP30? I don't know, unless Blockfrost is, no. Anyway.
It's essentially passing the payload from the SDK or whatever to whoever resolves how to publish on chain, the VDR. It's either SIP30 or or a REST API. But
Right,
yeah, but I
but-
agree that should be a common interface to just from the SDK perspective to push that on chain.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm thinking of when we add the additional connectors, we're not like rewriting a whole branch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so with this, I'm going to do the following. I'm going to log this conversation. That's the first time I do it, so have a little bit of patience with me around that. And then what I propose is to create a working group to specify these things and have this conversation. But I think for now we can experiment with building or using the SIP30 to integrate with external wallets for signing a transaction. And then on our side, I guess that we would need a library to create the seaboard transactions, which we probably want to use the one that Sebastian did, the Cardano serialization lib, which is a Rust package, and I think it's not cross-platform. It's not mobile, but mobile apps don't have any other way that is either not using deep links, which is not very positive or not very good for mobile apps, or submitting the transaction through an API instead.
Yeah, that's a that's a tricky subject.
Yeah. Anyway, you guys agree with the plan? We create like a separate, not discussion, but probably GitHub issue, and probably I will get involved the people that participated in the discussion and part of us in this discussion, and let's try to build the roadmap together.
Yep.
We will
Yep.
drive the boat, but your input is very valuable too.
Would we be able to have someone from Lace, or at least that knows the Lace API to check what we need? Because the SIP30 wouldn't be exposed on the Lace API.
No, this is how all the web wallets work. Lace
Yeah,
work.
but it's internally. They don't expose imagine that you have a web, you have a Chrome extension. They would not expose that method in the Chrome extension, and would be nice to have another extension that is able to communicate to that Lace extension.
I'm not sure I'm following what you say. This is what the wallet would expose.
Yeah, this is the standard that all the wallets will follow so that people
Yes.
like us just have
We
to
would
write to
get-
this interface.
We would get this, we integrate this method in the SDK, and that's it.
Okay,
You talk to Lace.
maybe I don't know. Yeah.
They just have to be
Yeah.
SIP30 compliant,
Yeah.
and that's an established process. There's very few that don't make it to this. This is sort of a baseline for
If
any
it's
internal, any of the wallets. Yeah.
if it's
So-
not Lace and it is another one, it is fine too.
So you guys are saying if I have the Lace installed on my browser, can I call it from the command line? Can I call that method?
You can literally do Cardano on your console log, and you
Yeah.
will have some look.
Yep.
In my
Is
case, I
the
already
method in there?
Yes.
Okay, we
Yeah.
need to double check, but so if it's in there, it seems pretty straightforward.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the
Yep.
wallets just check for the Cardano object, and then if it's SIP30 compliant, then they know how to talk to it.
Okay, let's try that. Let's create
Yeah.
a ticket and let's do some
And
experiments.
and we can start with testnet, list. So and we should update the documentation to or point to how to install that, and not assume that the user will know about it. So but yeah, it's interesting. Like I'm excited for this feature.
Yep. Me too. Okay. I was just not understanding. Okay, the API Fabio gets exposed after you call the async enable, and that returns you the API. So yes, you will have it.
Okay, well, let's just create a ticket and let's start experimenting in there and discussing in there.
Perfect. I agree with that.
I'm asking for this feature for a long time also.
I'm also
Awesome.
very interested in the mobile side as well, so I'd love to be part of that conversation. I know it's not easy, but as a mobile dev, I've thought a bit about this in the past, and not saying I have answers, but
Yep.
I still think there's some creative possibilities that haven't been explored yet. But it's a very common problem. So
Awesome. So then open, we have couple more things. It is the debate around improving and adding concrete use case examples. Tomorrow you will see what I mean by the workshop. And this will be a great use case example because we are not just talking about generic credential types, but we are explaining a story. There is a woman, Alice, that is always Alice, and then goes to a doctor that is always Bob, and they exchange some stuff. Then Alice goes to the pharmacy and receives another Bob that is asking her to share some credentials. So we are adding a little bit of narrative and also making it extremely interactive. So yeah, that's about that one. Then about supporting these methods, I feel like we already have enough right now by starting to work on issuance capabilities. So I would propose to leave the votings open for a longer period. And also in here, the votings were not very clear if it directly benefits or if not. So maybe we can do another session where we bring the people that voted this 40 and the other ones that voted this 40 and everyone shares their own thoughts. Because in here, it doesn't seem so easy to decide, right? If this was 90, then I would say, okay, easy. But not yet.
I see the supporting new these methods also as a way to bring more people into using Identus. It's not only for the people that already have Identus, it's for people that use another bid method or are used to them and say, oh, nice, I can have like a whole infrastructure now and that easily, add infrastructure for my projects too. So it's also from the other side that I feel it's beneficial for the community overall.
Yeah, I think giving the cloud agent flexibility today to use any DIT method out there is a little bit complex. Maybe the guys from backend can confirm that. But on the other side, the wallet SDKs are designed in a way that they can be extended by new DIT methods, and it would not be very complicated. I guess that one of the things that I would like to maybe document first is if I wanted to do that, what would I need to do? Because this is today doable. This can be done without our permission. Well, you could not be an issuer of a non-prism DIT. That's okay. That's correct. But then we can work that out. And whenever we have issuance in the SDKs, then you will be able to use any DIT method for issuance, verifying, or being a holder.
Right, or even connecting to our DITCOM.
Yep.
Great.
Cool. Then the Identus kickoff, that's fine. Release 2.14. I read it earlier, but I got a little bit confused and I'm not sure. Well, that's good feedback from Michael. Cool. Then one other additional thing that I think I created an issue already. It is about Pluto on TS. Not here, maybe in TS directly. So the point that I want to make here, Pluto Encrypted is using RxDB, and RxDB over the time RxDB is a very cool project and it is very big, but over the time, in my opinion, it got bloated with a lot of unnecessary libraries that are not very easy to use, that we will never use, and that some of them include vulnerable packages.
Even Firebase, we saw Firebase installed from there, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Really wish to move on from another library. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Pluto Encrypted is a project that I don't remember when I started officially, probably around 1.5 years ago or something like that. Then in Christmas, literally, I was with Mix doing changes to make Pluto Encrypted a reality. And over the time, it got a lot more complicated. So that's the same people that started the Pluto Encrypted project is going to maintain an alternative that is a lot more lightweight and is not going to consume so much. And I would like the community to pick this up instead of being the Identus SDK. Why? Because it's TypeScript. Why? Because it's easy to do. And I think, yeah, I would love to see some involvement from some of you guys on this. Because again, the changes that we need to make into the SDK are not very big. And it is going to be a worth transition. I have already experimented with the package a little bit.
So
and say that again, sorry.
So that's the new name of Pluto Encrypted.
Yes.
All right, and that's on Trust Zero. Oh, okay, I see.
That's mine. It's only me doing commits.
Okay, and where can we see what needs to be implemented? Is there like an issue list or some reference like?
That's a very good point.
So somebody, like, if I like to contribute, because right now I'm working exactly on integrated Pluto Encrypted, and I'm seeing the same as you mentioned. I want to make that, faster, more reliable, all that. And if we're going to transition there, I'd like to contribute, but I guess I need to know what's the current status and what can I pick, to help.
There is a PR already where I've done a little bit of the work that is required. I did that past Friday or something. Basically, the only thing that we need is to implement the Pluto store that is using the new package. And as you see, it's as simple as it looks. So this is the change that we need. And then in the tests, I have already integrated in some of the tests. So you can see, especially in the Pluto tests, you can see that I'm already using the new store.
Okay.
And the tests are running. So
hold on. I didn't realize we were changing the SDK for this. You shouldn't need to change the SDK to implement a new store. Right, the store should be exported from the other library.
Well, I don't agree. Like, we already have a store in here that is called our RxDB store.
Yeah, but that was just trying to make things easier for people. Like, we still don't implement the actual storage solution with RxDB, right? That's the point. That's all separate. Like, we shouldn't, unless the community really wants specific storage types, I don't see there's a need for us to be implementing more stores in the SDK. Like, the stores should be implemented in the libraries they're relevant to.
Well, in here, man, I'm sorry, we have different opinions. Like, we already have one store and this is going to replace the other store. And during a period of time that we do not want to break everyone's implementation, we are going to keep both. But and then after a period of 3 times.
My point is, I never even wanted the RxDB store in here.
I know where you come from.
Implementation is, but we can add more stores, but the idea behind the store abstraction is obviously other people implement their stores elsewhere and then they use them with the SDK. And we can go down the route of obviously asking everyone what stores do they want, and then we can start implementing that way. But that kind of defies
that I agree, Curtis. But still, the SDK today is not ready for this. So, for example, make collections is not exposed. So, if you wanted to have the stores external, you will need to make changes in the SDK.
No, because again, make collections is just creating your database, which is you don't need TypeScript objects to create a database. Like, say I was creating an SQL store, I wouldn't need any of that. Like
this returns you the schemas that your database needs to create.
No, but that was an RxDB concept. Like, it's separate for every different database.
No.
So there's currently a Pluto abstraction, right? The Pluto store abstraction that everyone needs to comply to kind of work with the SDK, right? All right. And
it's abstracted on
what you're saying, okay. So that's my question. So is there a single implementation of that abstraction, or what Javi is saying, like on the new store, we want to update that abstraction?
So if you go back, Javi, and you go to that Pluto README, that kind of breaks it down a little bit. But so Pluto has multiple levels of abstraction. You've got the high level specific interface, which has all of the named functions. So they're contextual, like get did and get private keys and whatnot. Can you go back to the README, Javi?
Difference is between, this is Pluto. Pluto is just one implementation. Pluto is basically what makes the getDid methods what is implemented, and then this was introduced actually by Curtis to separate the store by the Pluto implementation. So not everyone who wants to implement a store needs to know about dids.
Yeah, so again, the idea is Pluto itself contains logic and context, so it knows about dids and things like that. And it has like 30 odd functions doing all different things. Then the store is another level of abstraction underneath, and that's basically just a CRUD interface where it doesn't really know anything about anything other than I'm passing objects back and forth. And we're using like Mango DB query objects and stuff like that. So any developer can just create a store that has, I can't remember the exact functions, query, update, delete, etc. And then tie that to
so what Javi is doing, our IDB should be a store for Pluto, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So as long as we don't change, as long as our IDB doesn't make Pluto change, I guess we're good.
Yeah, it doesn't. It just plugs with Pluto.
Yeah. Okay.
What Curtis is trying to say is that he doesn't want to start bloating the agent with another implementation, and in this case, look, I agree. So the discussion may be on where we put this new this class, basically.
Right. It's community based, so it's not part. It's just not part of the standard SDK distribution, but it could be implemented by the community. Yeah.
So if you were to make a MySQL store, for example, I wouldn't expect that to be in the SDK. I'd expect that to be in the MySQL store library.
Yeah.
This anyway, this doesn't define where to store the data. Like that's the whole point of doing this abstraction is that you can basically pass the abstraction you can pass the storage. Like we need to define the store is just a very dummy interface. Like if we go and check the code that is in there.
But again, then you've got the SDK that's implementing an abstraction, and then you're like, if we're exporting our IDB store, then people need to go learn about our IDB store to figure out what they need to hand that, which to me doesn't quite make sense. It should just be they understand a store and they can get the store from anywhere.
Yeah, but Mango query is not our RxDB, nothing. It's just a standard query language.
Yeah, but that's not. It's still our IDB store, whereas it should just be they import store from our IDB.
Yeah,
and then they pass that.
Right. from the SDK perspective, it shouldn't know any of the details of the store. Or
it just
need
shouldn't
to
have
know.
an implementation of the store, basically, right? The abstraction of the store. We just did it with RxDB because it was the quickest and easiest way that we thought was the most helpful to the community at the time, because it was we can give you a basic store implementation and then you can give it the actual storage detail.
It was the best that we had so when we took the decision.
Yeah.
The point I'm trying to make is that even in the this store does not define where you store the data. And
yeah, but that's still not the contention.
Well, it is. It is. It is because this matters a lot. In my opinion, this should live in the SDK. And let me explain you why very easy, or maybe not in the SDK. It's up to us. But I don't feel it's wrong that this lives in the SDK. Because at the end, what people need to implement is the basic storage. And what is a basic storage? The basic storage is literally what people need to implement. This is what we should make people using the SDK to implement.
You've kind of lost me now, because that is the store, isn't it?
No.
In what way is, like, why can't I just create a store that does exactly what that does? I'm a bit confused.
I mean, if you go and see the store code, it does more or less the same.
But that's kind of my point. Like, the store is the abstraction layer where the SDK currently cuts off, and so now we're adding.
Right.
It seems like there's another layer being added underneath around storage that I'm not sure the SDK needs to know about. That's kind of, again, it's where the store comes in and just goes, well, I've called query. I want to get back an array of objects. I don't have any on how it's done.
I have one question. So for who decides if the store is exportable or restorable? Is that a Pluto thing? Is that a Pluto abstraction where you implement export and restore, or is just a store abstraction? Because that's, for me, super relevant in order to restore a wallet, for example, or a backup or whatever. And if Pluto right now doesn't support that as an abstraction layer, I would like that to be added to the kind of the Pluto store abstraction in some way, and not depending on the storage layer itself.
I'm not sure I'm following, but they should respond you. So Pluto has backup and restore, and it is going to use whatever you pass. So it is going to use Pluto store, which is
perfect.
More or less this.
Yes. So Pluto supports backup and restore.
Yes.
And that's great. So that means the storage layer should define when Pluto calls backup, it should serialize and export all the contents of the wallet back to Pluto, and then up to however you want to back up that. Correct. And same with restore, right? All right. So that's for me, that's the critical feature that I need from Pluto. It's be able to back it up and restore it, and then decide whether I want that to live in memory or another storage layer. But that's really not as important. So I think we are all in agreement, or no? Because what's the discussion? I don't see any problem on RIDB implementation, as long as it's not part of the official SDK and it's like a community project that is just one more implementation of the Pluto abstraction. I think that's all good.
Yeah. So the contention was just, we seem to be exporting a store implementation in the SDK for RIDB,
which is literally what you are doing today.
Oh, okay.
This is exported by the SDK.
Yeah. But again, that was just a compromise. I don't think we should now keep building on that compromise.
That's another topic, yes.
All right, I see.
And then at some point, the objective of this whole thing is that we can trash these dependencies out. This is actually one of the bad dependencies that we cannot use. And that is the main reason why we had to implement our own storage. This is actually using the documentation from their side. But this is not talking about Pluto encrypted, so I'm confused. Because this, in my opinion, will not work. And this is right now in our documentation. Okay.
All right.
So yeah, sorry guys, that's it for the discussion. I just need a little bit of help because I only have the weekends to allocate on this. I agree with Curtis on that we should maybe put this package somewhere else. And I am fine to do that. The only thing though is that we need the models. The models need to be exported and
the types, yeah.
yeah, the models from the database.
Oh, okay.
Like what is a key? What is, because Curtis says that it doesn't matter, but it does.
It's certainly helpful. Like, I'm not against us exporting the models. That's fine, like you say. They can be used. I'm just saying it's not a requirement to create a database. But yeah, there's nothing against exporting our actual model schema.
I also checked that you already removed the dependencies that we had on our RxDB inside the model structure, which is great.
I'm not sure we had a dependency in the models, did we? I thought the models were always, either way, it doesn't matter. It's all good.
Yeah, I think we had some stuff. In here, for example, the schemas were from their class, and their class was bloated with unnecessary things and all that stuff. But yeah, cool. That's awesome discussion that we had today. What else? Well, before I forget,
So is there anything more to discuss or?
not really.
Okay.
Not really.
So thank you a lot.
Cool. All right, guys. Thank you.
Yes.
Have a nice
See you.
Yep.
See you tomorrow, I guess. I
See you
hope.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.